Hi, Kai here with you today, and I thought I might share with you how I use my Zig markers to paint up a rubber stamp image. I'm just showing you here the things that I'm going to be using to make this card today. The most important items, of course, are the Zig markers that I'm going to use to paint, and this is the Rubbernecker Field of Poppies stamp set and my mini Misty. And I start out, this is a two-step layering stamp, and this is the base which I'm stamping with Ranger Archival ink, and I'm using the Vivid Chartreuse to stamp the outline part of the stamp. It's one of those beautiful fresh colors, and as it's dull and raining here today, it would be nice to make a nice bright fresh card. So I do a couple of passes to make sure I've got good results. And then I do the second part of the stamping. I basically just kind of look at it and line it up as best I can. But I add a piece of I add a piece of photocopy paper, I should say, and I stamp on it, and then I line that to my watercolor paper and put it back in my Misty lined up, and reposition the magnets onto the watercolor paper to do my stamping, if that makes sense to you. I hope you can kind of see what I'm doing here in the video. So that's just the base outline. It's nothing, just gives me where the stamp's going to be, and then I flip that back and forth until I've got it lined up. Put it back in the Misty, put the magnets back down, and then I can do the second part of the stamping. And I color the stamp with my Zig markers. I'm using the Zigs in yellow and orange, scarlet red. I throw a bit of mustard in there, and yes, the green. I don't really use the green. I kind of got it out just in case. But I start by just coloring the inside portion of the stamp, spritz it with some water, and close the door. And I see there up on the right hand side it didn't transfer to the paper, so just close the door again. And then I clean the stamp after every time I do this to get a new color layer. And I continue to do this until I have the flower looking the way I want it. I'm adding in now just a tad of the mustard around the edges of the stamp and where there's the folds of the flower. Just a few, not very much of the mustard. Spritz and stamp and clean. The most significant color, of course, is going to be the orange and the scarlet red. I use the orange first. Kind of look at my stamp and my image on the right and like where do I want the color to be, and then color up the stamp. I do a few of these. I like that watercolor look that you get as well. Even though you're stamping, it still is a watercolor look. And then with the scarlet red, I do it a bit differently. I lay a bit down on my cut up craft mat and pick it up with my watercolor brush. And I'm adding in, and now I'm not painting, I'm just dabbing in, almost like a pointillism, just dabbing in a bit of the color. It's a deeper color than the orange, and I'll add a couple of layers of this to give some depth to the flower. You don't want to color in all the white space. I mean, that is what gives you the visual appeal. So it's just to add a little bit more dimension to the flower that I'm doing this. And then after I finish all of that up, this part up, adding the scarlet red, I then around the flower on the second part of the stamping are the splatters. So I do that separately by adding a bit of the orange, and then I add in the green parts, and you'll see that towards the end, but more you'll see it when I photograph the card more like close up. So I'm just continuing to do this. My watercolor brush of choice is the Escada Sable brush, the 1212 series. Now here, this is where I'm coloring the splatters. So this is not coloring the flower, it's the splatters that are outside the flower. I have some already done in the orange. This is the green that I'm doing. Some of these are close together too, so one might already be orange, but I want the two other ones to be green, so I'll just color it and then rub off any I don't want there. So I put my image back and my foam back in my Misty, because now I'm going to do the sentiment, and I'm using a Simon Says stamp sentiment. Thank you for the thank you. And I stamp this using Ranger Archival in a deeper orange. It's a monarch orange, it's called. A couple of passes does the trick. That's my bird you hear in the background. I'm just going to set that aside while I make a mask. I'm just stamping up the image in some London fog. Going to cut out the flower portion because I'm going to do some more ink splatters. I don't have any acrylic paint in the color that I'd like to use, which is orange and the green. I have green, but I don't have orange, so I'm going to do it using the Zig marker colors and throw in some Tim Holtz. This is Mowed Lawn. And just laid down a bit and picked it up with my brush. And did a few splatters. Then I do the same with the orange Zig marker. Lay some color down and pick it up with my brush to do the splatters. Did I say orange? I meant to say scarlet red. Sorry about that. So it's kind of ready now, I think. I might have done it off camera. I added some Wink of Stella just to the centers of the flower, just to give it a little bit of shine. And I mount the panel on some fun foam and add some cardstock for my framing to my base card. Then add the fun foam, and I use two-sided tape to put my fun foam on. And I'll add a few sequins, just 3 of them. I have too much of a piece of or too much splatter where that right hand sequin is. So that's a good way to cover it up and just add a little bit more sparkle, which I love. I hope you've enjoyed this card. I think this is probably the shortest video I've ever made. But I thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next time. If you like this, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Bye for now.